This is Flip Class Video 5. In this video, we'll introduce a simple flow control mechanism called repetition, and we'll introduce a simple repetition mechanism called while loop. In computer programming, a loop is a segment of code that is repetitive under a condition. So this code segment will be executing again and again and again as long as the condition is true. Generally, there are two scenarios that you will be using a loop in programming. One is you want to repeat a segment of the code for n times, and you know how many times that you want to execute this code segment ahead of time. Two, you may not know how many times that you want to repeat this code segment. So that the time that the code segment will be repeated could be entered by the user or can be determined on the fly when you execute the program. In Python, there are two mechanisms for generating repetitive code. One is a while loop, two is a for loop. Let's take a look at the while loop. In a while loop, an intended block of statement will be repeated again and again as long as the condition returns a Boolean value of truth. Okay, so this is the syntax of a while loop. You include a keyword while and then an expression that defines the condition, and then you follow by an intended block of statement. Here's a very simple example of a while loop. In this program, first of all, you declare a variable with an initial value of 1. So the condition that you define is as long as the value of num is smaller or equal than 5, then a code segment will be repeated again and again and again. So inside of this indented block of code segment, each time this code segment is executed, the value of num will be increased by 1. Right. So the first time that this code segment is executed, the value of num is 1. The second time that this code segment is executed, the value of num is 2, and so on. So that means this intended code segment will be executed 5 times. Also notice that at the end of this repeated intended code segment, the value of num is 6. Okay, so you can copy and paste this code segment and run it in your Python shell, and then you'll see the actual execution of this program. Another thing I want to notice is here's we're introducing a shorthand of a addition operator known as the plus equal operator. So the plus equal operator increase the value of the variable by 1. So it is just basically a short form of the variable equals to the variable plus 1. This is a flow chart of the program that we just wrote in the last slide, so you can just take a brief look at that yourself. Here I'm trying to give you a number of examples of the usage. How do you utilize the while loop? First, you can repeat a code segment n times. So this is illustrated in our last example. You can also use a while loop to validate inputs. So you want to check whether the user input is valid or not. All right. And in the third example, you can ask the user for input. So the user will keep on giving input to you, to your program, until the user enters an end of loop command. This is the pseudo code of our input validation example. Pseudo code is not an actual code, so it will not run when you put it in Python script. Pseudo code is basically a description of all the simple logic of a program. Programmers use pseudo code before they actually write the actual code. So this is a clear illustration of the mindset and the logic that is inside the programmer. Okay, so in this input validation program, first of all, in step 1, we ask the user to enter 2 numbers. In step 2, we ask the user to enter the command. There are 2 commands that we define in this example. One is to do addition of the 2 numbers. 2 is to do multiplication of the 2 numbers. Okay, so in step 3, we have a while loop. We ask for the user to enter the command if the command entered in step 2 is not valid. And we ask the user to enter the command again and again and again until the user enter a valid input. So if the input is not valid, this while loop will keep on asking the user to input the command. So after we have a valid command entered in step 2 or in step 3, we move on to step 4. If the command is A, then we add the 2 numbers. And in step 5, if the command is B, then we multiply the 2 numbers. So now we understand we have a very clear understanding of the step-by-step logic of our input validation program. We can take this pseudocode and trying to translate this logic into actual functioning Python code. Now this is the actual functional Python code. In the first 2 lines of code, we implement step 1 of the pseudocode, which is asking the user to enter 2 numbers. And then we convert it into a float and then assign it to 2 variables. And then in line 3, 4, and 5, we're trying to implement step 2 of the pseudocode. In step 2, we ask the user to input a command. So basically in line 3 and line 4, we print out the instruction. Enter A for adding the 2 numbers, enter B for multiplying the 2 numbers. And then in line 5, we ask for the command, and then we assign the input command by the user to the variable command. So in step 3 of the pseudocode, there is a while loop. So as long as the command entered in step 2 is not valid, when we keep on asking the user to enter the command again and again. So the condition that we define in the while loop is if the command is not equal to A and if the command is not equal to B, then this code segment will be repeated again and again and again. So if the condition is not satisfied, then we print out the instruction again. Enter A for adding, enter B for multiplying, and then we ask for user to input the command again and assign it to the variable command. And then we go on inside of the while loop to check whether the command is correct. If it is not, ask for the command again. If it is not, ask for the command again. So this code segment will be repeated again and again until the user enter the correct command. So in step 4, if the command is A, then you simply add the 2 numbers and display the results. And in step 5, else if the command is equals to B, you calculate the result by multiplying the 2 numbers and then display the result. So this is the output of the actual execution of the code that we just wrote in the last slide. So first of all, the program asks for the first number, and then it asks for the second number. And then they print out the instruction, enter A for adding, enter B for multiplying. And then you can enter anything you want in the command. You can enter any character or any string or any numbers. But if it is not A and it is not B, then they keep on asking you for the command again and again and again until you enter either A or B. And if you enter A, the program simply add up the 2 numbers and then display the results. During the lecture, I will give you more examples and exercise for implementing some of this logic using the repetition and loop. I'll see you in the lecture time.